I said it very clear. It is not just about giving a monkey water with a cup, but the problem is taking the cup from the monkey. Again, I repeat, it is not just difficult to give a monkey a cup of water, but where the problem lies is taking the cup from the monkey. That is just the case with the Nigerian government having a peace deal with the terrorist Kingpin, emboldening them and giving them more effrontery, more courage, of course, to expand their frontiers and tentacles across the regions of this country. Now, they are now rubbing shoulder with the defense headquarters, rubbing shoulder with the military, threatening to bomb down Nigeria should the military encroaches their camps, their territories, where they have established and consolidated their own structures. What was the intention for doing so? This is the question the government and the intelligence security agencies would have digest and unraveled. Could it mean that they are not in the know of the realities of the mission of this terrorist kingpin or cells springing up here and there? The government of Nigeria, under the watch of Ahmed Bola Tinubu, should have asked very silent questions. What were their mission in the first place? Because if you don't get to the root of something, a problem, you can't solve it. They have told Tinubu clearly, categorically, that Tinubu cannot end banditry. You can't move them out of this Nigeria. You cannot stop them from operating. That is what they are telling you very clearly, categorically, without mentioning words. They are now coming out to confront the governments, bringing the government to its knee, to the point that the government compromise its constitution, the place of justice. It simply means that the Nigerian citizens who has been victimized, who have become victim of this cruelty, their life does not worth anything. Their life does not worth being defended, being avenged for. People whose ancestral homes have been overrun, their own societal and communal life disrupted within the Nigerian state, does not deserve to be compensated or defended in this case, in this development, because immediately you begin to negotiate and compromise the standard, lowering the bar, it means that all is finished. All is finished. There has never been any country who stooped too low to negotiate with the bandit, with the terrorists. On what basis? Is it on the basis of their ideology? Do you share common ideology with them? That could be the only basis where you could reach a compromise. You are not coming from the same perspective or from the same end. Except otherwise I'm wrong, of course, that could be the case. But if you understand what these people represent, what they stood for, and what they are out to achieve, you wouldn't even give a place for negotiation. What is the basis of negotiation? And I've heard Gumi saying that any bandit or terrorist is the best word is terrorist that have killed more than 1,000 people, of course, will not receive any peace deal, will not receive any pardon or negotiation. They can't imagine. So you needed to kill up to 1,000 before you could be qualified as being a terrorist that does not deserve any peace deal or, of course, bargain with the president. With the federal government of Nigeria, do you see how this is going now? Gradually, they are taking over the government. They are taking over the government because gradually they are now projecting their agendas. is exerting their influence on the administration of Ahmed Bola Tinubu. And Tinubu is giving them a very long rope. This is not a long rope in this case, a very, of course, opportunity for them to hold him to the point that he couldn't even breathe. He'll be gasping for air. What they are telling you now, they are indirectly, systematically reducing the efficiency of the security operative, the military, the intelligence, and the rest of them. Which means it has gotten to the point now they are now threatening the existence of Nigeria, that they are going to bomb down Nigeria. Of course, the Ado Alero threatened that if in the event of any nonsense from the military or attacking any of his group or coming to their base or their strongholds, their camps, to do any kind of mess, they will deal with them. They will reign, of course, the reign of horror on Nigeria. They're going to bomb down and whatever you see. Now, the fact they release 40 captives and subsequently release another one does not mean that they were overpowered by the Nigerian military. They decided to do that because of the peace deal. And if in any way the government attempt or show any intention of breaking that peace deal or coming to attack them or infect their camps or hit any of their men in oppression, then it means the government has buy markets. It has buy big market. As my people do say, when you sell a dog and you buy a monkey, uh, you are still at loss. You sold your dog, maybe a mad dog, you went and buy a monkey. You are still at loss on either side. So that is quite a very state of tragedy that Nigeria, our Tinubu administration, has found himself. They have succeeded to the point of getting the attention of the president. That is a big distraction. As far as Tinubu's administration is concerned, it's a big distraction, and billions will go down the drain just to compensate these people, to make them feel happy. Look at Gumi was demanding for amnesty for these people, that amnesty should be extended to them. On what basis? Comparing them to Niger Delta militants. I don't see any considerations or basis for which Sheikh Gumi should even contemplate in the first instance of calling for amnesty for these terrorists who have destroyed even their communities, the community where they reside. The host communities have fled. Farmers can't go to farm. Is that the modus operandi of the Niger Delta militants? Were Niger Delta militants after their host communities? No. What were they fighting for? They are fighting, though some of them, of course, eventually were fighting for selfish or personal interests, hiding under the disguise that are fighting and demanding for what is due for them. Now, let's just digest that. The Niger Delta militants were not fighting against the locals, where they come from or where they reside, the host communities. They are fighting against the federal government for negligence, for gross negligence and desecration of the ecosystem. Their water bodies, their environment has been polluted, their land. They are mostly fishermen, farmers. They could no longer go to farm. Oil spillage and exploration has damaged, of course, their farmlands without any compensation, because their major source of livelihood has been ruined, they have been destroyed. So they needed to be compensated. That is justifiable. Yes, if they now resort to, of course, taking up of arms and demanding to call the attention of the federal government on what they needed to do, naturally without even being coerced, without waiting for someone to remind them what they need, the obligations to the host communities where all these oil explorations are going on, and eventually provide basic amenities to cushion the effect of deplorable state of this ecosystem, the environment, their water bodies, and of course their farmlands. They hardly could grow crops again because of the damage done as a result of the spillage, oil spillage, and the rest of them. So they have the justification. They have justification for demanding or taking up arms as a way of getting the attention of the government. That if you don't do this, we're going to take up arms. They are rebelling based on cogent, defined interests. Now, what are the terrorists in the north? They are being groomed by some northern political elites. What was their grievances? What was their digitation? What exactly were they fighting for? Were they fighting for that because the federal government of Nigeria took over their goods and is causing the mining over there is causing damage and the poisoning of their water bodies like the lead poison and the rest of them? No. But sadly, majority of them who formed these gang groups were being empowered, mobilized by certain heavyweights from the north to enable them individually mine the resources, the mineral resources in the north. That is not accounted for. That the proceeds of those sales of those mineral resources or raw material are not limited to the federal coffers. They made it to make themselves create chaos within the region to get people deserted and to take over and get what they want to get without being intercepted or interrupted. They arm these people mining gold, platinum, and other mineral resources in collaboration with some Western powers who continue the exploitation of African souls, African people, to reach themselves. You buy guns and, of course, give some inducement, monetary incentive or inducement to these people to take up arms and harass and intimidate anybody coming to there, of course, or disrupt your own operations and mining processes just for personal selfish interests. Now, what are they fighting for? If Niger Delta case is justifiable, what are the northern terrorists or gangs, group of gangs, armed gangs hiding under this guy's the name or the nomenclature of bandits? What is bandits? So you are not justifying that robbing people of their belongings should be justified. That is an act of criminality. It's criminal act. Robbing is robbery. That is just the case. They are even killing the host communities where they found themselves. So they weren't even fighting for the indigenous communities or wherever they found themselves. You dislodge the indigenous communities and you reoccupy, you name the area after your your culture or your language and the rest of them, you occupy it. So where is that justification for Gumi to demand that they should be treated as Niger Delta militants? No, these are questions before the public interest, and we must do due diligence and analysis to this. Whenever Gumi was calling, treat them as you treat Niger Delta boys and the rest of them, they are not the same. As I've explained now, Niger Delta boys has the reason, justifiable reasons, cogent reasons, terrible reasons why they took up arms against the state because they have been calling the attention of the state, and eventually the state could not live up to our responsibilities, not even listening to them. They decided, okay, if you don't listen to us, then these are natural resources. You are making life unbearable, miserable for us. We can't continue to watch while we all die in silence. They decided to take up arms to demand for justice, for compensation, do compensation for the degradation of their own natural habitat. They don't have good water. Their water is being polluted. The air is being polluted. Environment is being polluted. Their crops, their farmlands is being polluted. Soil pollution, water pollution, air pollution. So under international laws, they are justified because that uh, could pose a risk or threat to their lives and that of their families and children as well. So what were they fighting for? The Boko Haram, the bandit, the Sheikh Gumi is making a case for. What were they fighting? What exactly do they want? You have arable lands. You should have turned into opportunities, to create opportunities, agrarian opportunities with multi-billion dollar investment. Yes. If those people with their strengths, with their energy, rather than buying arms and AK-47 for them, you bought tractors, you train them in mechanized farming, of course, engaging them in cash crops and other cash root crops and the rest of them for export. The North would have been one of the most enviable regions in the Nigeria today. But rather than empowering them for a better future, you decided to ruin their life and, of course, make it miserable for everyone residing within the northern part of the country. Now you are demanding for amnesty so that much money will be pumped into these people to procure more arms and, of course, facilitate their agenda. As I rightly said, what exactly was their agenda was to overrun Nigeria. They're in a state of desperation. So it appears they are succeeding in holding Tinubu's administration to ransom. Do you get it? They said that Jonathan was a woman and the rest of them a drunkard and a sinking fisherman and the rest of them. But Jonathan proved to have the courage to confront these elements, the various elements and the activities. They were shouting. But here comes a man who said Jonathan is this and the rest of them, that you could cohabit with the terrorists and give them their own share, give Caesar what is Caesar's, and give God what is God. So they have become Caesars now. They can occupy the territories of Nigeria, unleashing mayhem on the population, defenseless population of this country, and it's been ignored by the government. And the government's hands are tied. They're not giving conditions, ordering the governments never to dare cross their own defined region. They are now taking over some territories within Nigeria and calling it their own region, their own zone, their own camp, and the rest of it. This is Nigeria. And oftentimes, the defense headquarters, the chief of defense staff will come and say that the territorial integrity of Nigeria should not be compromised. Already under their watch, under their nose, is being compromised, taken over by these assailants, threatening to burn down Nigeria. You can't imagine threatening to kill a Nigerian citizen. Under what condition should that be accepted? The reason why one of the Northerners who was canvassing for the release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, because there is no basis, there is no justification. Where is the law? Where is the justice? Where is the position of the Constitution? Where is the criminal justice system? What is the Nigerian criminal justice system turning to? Where someone who was accused, somebody who was acquitted and discharged under the laws, under the Nigerian court of law, legal jurisprudence, was held behind the bars, while somebody who has been involved in act of criminality, killing Nigeria, taking life of Nigerians, overrunning communities, are being pampered and treated as kings and princes. Today they are challenging you. No power, nobody can move them, can push them out of Nigeria, and you think that was a joke. Sooner than later, of course, they will come for the real deal. Yes, they will come for the real deal, which means they must decide whosoever will occupy the seat of power. If they say, Tinubu, get out, this is what we need. Possibly might be giving him their own ministerial list, somebody who should preside as the minister of the federation. This is where it is going. Because you have laid the foundation. You have given them a good opportunity to strive, to make their demand, to place their demand, contrary to the position of Nasir El-Rufai that said that there is no repentant Boko Haram. Deal with them according to the provisions of the law. Now, do Nigeria have a law? What does the law stipulate? What is the criminal justice system in Nigeria? Does it mean that there is no law again that is applicable? Well, let's give them amnesty and the rest of them. Now, what is the basis of amnesty? People who are demanding for an Islamic state. So what should be the basis of amnesty? The Boko Haram there are killing and the Nigerian citizens, disrupting the economy. Billions of dollars has been expended or wasted in this fight, in procurement of facilities, in paying of ransom, engaging in lobbying, as it's been alleged by certain personalities, El-Rufai and Dati Ahmed, that they are on the payroll of the federal government collecting allowances. Why wouldn't they be emboldened? And here you have the court to incarcerate Mazin Nnamdi Kanu indefinitely. What an injustice.